He was America's golden boy, then he vanished from the spotlight. It all began with a voice that didn't match the face. A young man from Long Island who stepped onto the America's Got Talent stage and stunned millions with a sound straight out of the Sinatra era. That man was Sal Valentinetti. With his thick accent, sharp tuxedo, and undeniable charisma, he looked like he belonged behind a pizza counter rather than a big band mic. But when he opened his mouth and delivered Dean Martin's My Way with velvet-smooth vocals, everything changed. The audience roared and Heidi Klum, barely containing her excitement, slammed the golden buzzer without hesitation. In that moment, Sal wasn't just a contestant, he was a phenomenon. The cameras captured his grandmother crying, his mother cheering, and the judges beaming with disbelief. For a few weeks in 2016, it felt like the world had rediscovered a long-lost sound through an unexpected voice. And when he advanced all the way to the finals, finishing in 5th place, it didn't feel like a loss, it felt like the beginning of something huge. But that was just the surface. Behind the cheers and confetti, Sal's story was far more complex than anyone realized. His rapid rise to fame masked deeper struggles with image, expectations, and the quiet reality of what happens when the cameras stop rolling. Despite the spotlight, he was still a young man navigating a brutal industry, one that often favors the flashy over the faithful. And in Sal's case, the pressure to keep crooning and smiling masked the emotional toll of trying to stay relevant in a world that moves at internet speed. While other AGT stars landed record deals or Hollywood gigs, Sal returned to his roots, balancing bar gigs and wedding performances while trying to honor the vintage sound he loved. And just when fans expected a full-blown career explosion, Sal made a choice that shocked many. He pulled back. No scandal, no headlines, just quiet distance. Rumors swirled online about health issues, industry conflicts, and career burnout, but the truth, like Sal's voice, was subtler than that. And what came next would leave even his biggest supporters asking the same question: what really happened to Sal Valentinetti? The golden buzzer was just the beginning, but fame isn't always kind. In the world of television talent shows, few moments are more iconic than the golden confetti drop. But for Sal Valentinetti, that glittering shower wasn't just a celebration, it was a weight. America had fallen in love with the charismatic pizza delivery guy from Bethpage, New York, who crooned like he'd just stepped out of the 1950s. His golden buzzer performance instantly became viral content, turning him into an overnight sensation. Suddenly, Sal wasn't just a contestant on America's Got Talent, he was a brand. Media outlets scrambled to get interviews. Fans sent letters, gifts, and tearful thank yous. Italian-American communities across the country embraced him as a symbol of tradition and pride. He even landed a headlining slot on the AGT Live tour in Las Vegas. From delivering pizzas to selling out theater seats, the transformation was rapid, almost surreal. But as the spotlight intensified, so did the expectations. People weren't just coming for the music, they wanted the personality, the charm, the nostalgia. Sal had to constantly be on, delivering the old-school crooner vibe 24/7, whether he felt like it or not. There was little room for experimentation or rest. Behind the smiles and Sinatra covers, the pressures of performing, touring, and staying relevant began to mount. Sources close to the performer later shared that the grind of back-to-back shows, media appearances, and branding obligations left Sal physically and emotionally taxed. And unlike mainstream pop stars who benefit from massive record labels and PR machines, Sal's journey remained largely independent. That meant more control, but also more stress. Every gig booked, every album recorded, every social media post was his to manage. And for a young man in his early 20s still adjusting to sudden fame, the transition proved more daunting than most realized. There were no explosive headlines, no dramatic fallouts, but those who watched closely began to notice the subtle signs: fewer public appearances, long silences between projects, and whispers that Sal was stepping away to focus on something more personal. The golden buzzer may have launched his stardom, but what it couldn't guarantee was a roadmap for what came after. And as the world moved on to newer contestants and trendier sounds, Sal faced a crossroads that would redefine the next chapter of his life. From Sinatra's studio to self-funded albums, Sal refused to fade quietly. While most reality show stars ride a brief wave of fame before disappearing into obscurity, Sal Valentinetti took a different route, one fueled not by trends but by timelessness. After his unforgettable run on America's Got Talent, fans waited eagerly to see if Sal would trade his throwback charm for mainstream fame. But instead of chasing pop producers or collaborating with viral artists, Sal did something most rising talents wouldn't dare. He doubled down on the classics. Just a year after his AGT debut, Sal released a self-titled EP that paid tribute to the golden era of music. No auto-tune, no flashy guest features, just that velvet baritone crooning through jazz standards, love ballads, and holiday favorites. And he didn't stop there. In 2017, on Valentine's Day, he released Little Valentine, a full album that he recorded at the same historic studio where Frank Sinatra once laid down tracks. For Sal, it wasn't about jumping on the Billboard charts, it was about honoring the legends who inspired him. Each note he sang carried a kind of quiet rebellion against the noisy, ever-scrolling digital age. But the music industry isn't kind to purists. Without major label backing, radio play was limited. Streaming numbers were modest compared to flashier acts, yet despite the odds, Sal pressed on. He organized regional tour, often performing with full orchestras in intimate venues that echoed the Rat Pack era. Fans who showed up weren't chasing TikTok clout, they were loyal supporters who cherished the authenticity he brought to the stage. His shows became less like concerts and more like time machines, transporting audiences to candlelit lounges and smoky jazz bars. But maintaining that nostalgic aesthetic came at a cost, literally. Big band productions are expensive, and Sal was often the one footing the bill. No massive label, no corporate sponsorships, just a crooner and a dream. Still, he persisted. Critics praised his arrangements. Fans uploaded bootleg videos that racked up views. And though he wasn't dominating music awards or going viral weekly, Sal built something far more rare in today's entertainment landscape: trust. He may not have been everywhere, but wherever he was unforgettable. And while the mainstream world started to forget the name Sal Valentinetti, the man himself was quietly preparing to face a storm much bigger than stage lights and record sales. The crooner's secret battle: how Sal fought for his life behind the music. Audiences saw the tuxedos, the charm, the velvet voice, but they didn't see what was happening when the stage lights dimmed. Beneath the smile and Sinatra swagger, Sal Valentinetti was waging a private war with his own body. By his early 20s, the whirlwind of sudden fame collided with years of unhealthy habits and relentless touring schedules. Long nights on the road, constant travel, and a diet built on convenience had left Sal at a dangerous crossroads. At over 400 pounds, the risks weren't abstract anymore. Doctors warned him about type 2 diabetes, sleep apnea, and a future where his golden voice might be the least of his worries. For a performer whose instrument was his body, the stakes were terrifying. But Sal didn't announce a dramatic comeback or sign up for a flashy reality weight loss show. Instead, he did something rarer in an industry addicted to spectacle. He quietly took control. Over the course of just a few years, Sal lost around 130 pounds, shocking fans when he reappeared on stage looking like a leaner, healthier version of the kid they had fallen in love with on AGT. It wasn't vanity, it was survival. Friends later revealed that Sal's decision was driven by fear of losing not just his career, but his future with the people he loved. He changed his eating habits, embraced exercise, and leaned on close family and his longtime girlfriend Gianna for support. Yet even this inspiring transformation carried its own pressures. As photos circulated online, some fans celebrated the new Sal while others accused him of changing his brand. That tension between staying authentic and staying alive became another weight he had to carry. But through it all, Sal refused to make his health journey a publicity stunt. He spoke about it only in glimpses, framing it as a story of discipline and gratitude rather than a marketing angle. In a world where every celebrity milestone becomes content, Sal's approach felt almost rebellious. The result was a man who looked different but sang with the same soul, a performer who had confronted his greatest challenge offstage and come back stronger. Still, those who knew him best say the transformation was about more than shedding pounds. It was about shedding the quiet fears and self-doubt that had followed him since AGT. And while his health stabilized, a new question began to rise. After saving himself physically, could Sal also reinvent himself artistically and emotionally in an industry that rarely gives second chances? Fame faded, but love stayed inside Sal's quiet new life off the stage. In a world obsessed with red carpets and constant content, Sal Valentinetti chose a different rhythm, one where applause isn't the currency, and happiness doesn't need a headline. After the viral fame of America's Got Talent and years of grinding through independent tour, Sal quietly began building something even more precious than a music empire, a life of his own. At the center of that life is Gianna, his longtime partner, biggest supporter, and now fiancé. The engagement announcement came in December 2022, with none of the paparazzi flair one might expect from a former TV sensation. No publicist-crafted captions, no magazine exclusives, just a heartfelt moment shared with fans through a photo and a smile. And for Sal, that moment meant more than any standing ovation. While fans had speculated for years about his relationship status, fueled by his old-school charm and fanbase of swooning admirers, Sal kept his private life just that, private. But those close to him knew Gianna had always been his anchor. Through the chaotic tour schedules, the health scares, and the career crossroads, she stood beside him not as a fan but as a partner. Together, they carved out a rhythm that was far from the spotlight but closer to real life. Sal still sings, yes, but on his own terms. He continues to perform across the US, often in intimate venues that allow him to connect with audiences without sacrificing authenticity. He's also dabbled in podcasting and online collaborations, lending his voice and personality to platforms that value story over spectacle. Yet unlike many of his AGT peers chasing viral trends, Sal's choices reflect a man who's no longer chasing approval. He's already had his moment in the sun, now he's choosing moments that matter. That includes making music without the pressure of Billboard rankings, spending holidays with family instead of backstage, and preparing for a future where fatherhood and family might take the lead role. For a generation used to measuring success in likes and streams, Sal's quieter path might seem like a retreat. But to those who have followed his journey closely, it feels like a full-circle moment. The pizza delivery kid with Sinatra pipes is no longer performing to prove something. He's performing because he wants to. And while the music world may have moved on, Sal Valentinetti hasn't disappeared. He's just rewriting the meaning of success, one note and one promise at a time. But beyond the smiles and stability, there's still one lingering mystery that fans can't ignore. Why do so many headlines describe his story as heartbreaking? And is there more to that narrative than anyone dared to say? Tragic fall from fame or internet fiction, the truth behind the clickbait headlines. At first glance, typing Sal Valentinetti into a search bar today pulls up a surprising stream of headlines. Heartbreaking truth, what happened to the golden crooner, and even vague whispers of a so-called fall from grace. But dig deeper and one thing becomes clear: the narrative doesn't quite match the man. Despite the dramatic titles flooding YouTube thumbnails and blog posts, there is no documented scandal, no public collapse, no viral meltdown attached to Sal's name. So why has this perception taken hold? And who's been shaping it? It turns out the real story isn't one of tragedy, it's one of silence. In an era where public figures are expected to constantly update, overshare, and hustle for relevance, Sal did the unthinkable. He stepped back. No algorithm-chasing live streams, no TikTok dance trends, no endless PR cycles. And that, to some viewers, reads as a vanishing act. When someone disappears from headlines, the internet fills in the blanks. Speculation replaces fact, and within months, fans who haven't seen a recent clip begin asking, is he okay? Some even fabricate darker theories: health crises, career failure, secret conflict with the AGT machine. But none of these stories are substantiated by credible sources. In fact, the only thing Sal's really been guilty of is living life on his terms. The tragedy, if any, is not his own. It's the way fame culture discards anyone who doesn't constantly perform. Sal built a loyal fanbase through talent and humility, yet found himself misrepresented by algorithms hungry for emotion, whether real or manufactured. And once one tragic video gains traction, others copy the formula. Suddenly, you've got dozens of thumbnails with somber music, echoing narration, and phrases like "what you didn't know," all built on assumptions. It's worth noting, Sal has never publicly corrected or clapped back at these narratives. Whether it's out of class, disinterest, or strategy, he lets the music and his work speak. That silence, while noble, can also be misinterpreted. In a media ecosystem where being quiet is suspicious, Sal's choice to disengage from controversy makes him an easy canvas for myth. But for those who have followed closely, the reality is far more grounded. A man who rose fast, faced private challenges, made deliberate choices, and continues to create on his own timeline. No rehab stints, no industry feuds, no explosive memoirs, just a career path that looks unfamiliar in a world obsessed with chaos. And yet the lingering question remains: what would happen if Sal finally broke that silence, told his story his way, and reminded the world that not all disappearances are tragedies? He didn't vanish, he evolved, and that may be the most honest ending of all. In a media landscape addicted to noise, Sal Valentinetti chose something radical: peace. His story isn't one of overnight collapse or scandalous downfall. It's not the tale of a prodigy gone rogue or a public figure consumed by ego. No, it's something much harder to categorize. Sal's journey is a quiet rebellion against the entertainment industry's obsession with visibility at all costs. After dazzling millions on America's Got Talent, he could have followed the typical post-show trajectory: management deals, reality spin-offs, social media saturation. But instead, he charted his own course. He released heartfelt music, honored the greats who came before him, battled personal health demons without spectacle, and chose love over limelight. And for all the internet chatter suggesting he fell off, the truth is far more inspiring. He stepped back so he could move forward on his own terms. In many ways, the tragic narrative attached to Sal says more about us than it does about him. We expect our stars to burn fast and bright, and when they don't implode or explode, we assume something's wrong. But what if success isn't always loud? What if surviving the machine with your dignity intact is its own kind of victory? Sal Valentini's life after AGT may not be trending daily, but it's marked by real transformation, grounded choices, and a love for music that refuses to be reshaped by algorithms. He's a reminder that fame doesn't always have to shout sometimes, it just has to sing. As he continues to perform, love, and evolve out of the spotlight, his story challenges everything we think we know about what happens after the standing ovation fades. Because while many chase fame, Sal found something rarer: a life worth living even when no one's watching. And in the end, that may be the most powerful note he's ever hit.